My beloved child, listen closely because this is not a coincidence that you are here reading these words right now. This message found you at the exact moment your heart was quietly whispering a name you try so hard to forget but never truly can. And I need you to understand something deeply, something that may shake you, awaken you, and at the same time bring you a strange sense of peace. The person you miss every single night. The one who appears in your thoughts when the world goes silent. The one whose memory feels like both a comfort and a wound. They are thinking about you too, yes, right now, in ways they don't show, in ways they hide even from themselves. And the reason you feel this pull, this unexplainable connection that refuses to fade no matter how much time passes or how many distractions you surround yourself with, is because your souls are still tied together in a way that logic cannot break and distance cannot weaken. And I know there are moments when you question yourself, when you wonder if you're the only one holding on, if you're the only one replaying memories, if you're the only one feeling this late-night ache that seems to grow stronger when everything else becomes quiet. But what you don't see, what they never tell you, is that they go through the same silent storm. They scroll through old messages. They pause when something reminds them of you. They fight the urge to reach out. They feel your absence in ways they don't admit to anyone, not even their closest people, because they are hiding their feelings, not because those feelings aren't real, but because they are afraid of rejection, afraid of reopening something they don't fully understand, afraid of losing control over emotions they've tried so hard to suppress, and erase the truth you were not expecting but need to hear. Their silence is not indifference, their distance is not a lack of care, it is a shield, a protection they have built around their heart because something inside them knows that what they feel for you is powerful, maybe even overwhelming, and instead of facing it, they choose to hide from it, to bury it under distractions, to convince themselves that moving on is easier than confronting what still exists between you. But energy doesn't lie, connection doesn't disappear without a trace, and the fact that you still feel them, that your heart still reacts at the mere thought of them, is not weakness, it is awareness. It is your soul recognizing something unfinished, something unresolved, something that still holds meaning beyond what your mind can fully comprehend. And I need you to pay attention here because this is where everything shifts. Just because they are thinking about you doesn't mean they will come back tomorrow. Just because they feel something doesn't mean they are ready to act on it. And this is the part that hurts. This is the part that tests you. Because you are standing at a crossroads between holding on to hope and protecting your own peace, and you must understand that their hidden feelings are their responsibility, not yours to fix, not yours to chase, not yours to beg into existence. You were never meant to lose yourself trying to be seen by someone who is still hiding from their own truth, and yet, this connection you share is not meaningless. It is not random, it is teaching you something deeper about love, about patience, about emotional strength, about knowing your worth even when someone else fails to show you what you deserve. And yes, there is a reason why they think about you at night, because nighttime strips away distractions, it removes the noise, it forces honesty, and in that silence, their mind drifts back to you, to what you were, to what you could have been, to the version of themselves that felt something real, something rare, something they don't easily find with others, and that realization scares them. Because real connection demands vulnerability, and vulnerability is something they are still learning how to handle, so instead of expressing it, they hide it, instead of reaching out, they hold back, instead of risking everything, they choose the safety of silence, but erase the part you cannot ignore, You deserve someone who doesn't just feel but also shows. Someone who doesn't just think about you in the dark but stands beside you in the light. Someone who doesn't hide behind fear but chooses you despite it. And that doesn't mean this person is your enemy. It doesn't mean they never cared. It simply means they are on a different level of emotional readiness than you are right now. And you cannot force alignment where it doesn't naturally exist. You cannot rush someone into becoming who you need them to be. And I know there's a part of you that wants a sign, a clear answer, a moment where everything suddenly makes sense and they come back with honesty and clarity. But life doesn't always work that way. Sometimes the message is not in their return but in their absence. Sometimes the lesson is not about reunion but about realization that your love is deep, your heart is genuine, your capacity to feel is powerful, and those are not things to suppress or regret, those are things to protect and give to someone who is ready to receive them fully. And yet, I won't lie to you, there is still a thread between you and this person, a quiet, invisible thread that pulls your thoughts toward each other at the most unexpected times, and maybe one day, when fear no longer controls them, when clarity replaces confusion, when they are ready to face what they've been hiding, they might step forward, they might speak, they might finally reveal what has been locked inside them for so long. But you cannot pause your life waiting for that possibility. You cannot put your happiness on hold for a maybe. You cannot let your nights be consumed by someone who only meets you in thoughts but not in reality. And this is your power, this is your moment, to feel without losing yourself, to remember without being trapped, to love without abandoning your own worth. Because the truth is, whether they come back or not, your story doesn't end here. Your life is not defined by their silence. Your future is not limited to what didn't happen. And the love you seek, the connection you crave, the understanding you deserve, it is not out of reach. It is not reserved for someone who hides. It is meant for someone who sees you, chooses you, and stands with you openly. And until that moment arrives, you must become your own source of peace, your own sense of validation, your own reminder that you are not forgotten, you are not alone, and you are certainly not the only one feeling something real, because somewhere, right now, at this exact moment, the person you miss is also pausing, also remembering, also wondering about you. But while they stay silent, you have a choice. To stay stuck in the echo of what could have been, or to rise into the reality of what still can be. And that choice, my beloved child, will define everything that comes next. My beloved child, before you allow your heart to drift back into that familiar ache, listen even deeper now, because what you felt in the silence was only the surface of something much more powerful. Something that is still unfolding behind the scenes in ways you cannot yet see. And I need you to understand this with absolute clarity. The connection you share with this person is not ordinary. It was never meant to be simple, because if it were simple, it would not have stayed with you this long. It would not visit you in quiet moments. It would not return in your thoughts without warning. And it would not leave this lingering feeling that something between you is still unfinished, still unresolved, still alive beneath everything that has happened. And yes, they feel it too. But here is what they don't show, here is what they don't say. Every time they think about reaching out to you, something inside them pulls them back, a voice that reminds them of past misunderstandings, past fears, past uncertainties, and instead of pushing through that resistance, they retreat into their comfort zone, convincing themselves that staying silent is safer than risking everything again. And while you sit there wondering if they care, they are caught in a silent battle between their heart and their fear. A battle that repeats itself more often than you realize, especially during those late hours when everything slows down and their mind can no longer escape the truth they've been avoiding, and in those moments, you become real to them again, not just a memory, not just a past connection, but a presence they can still feel, a presence that lingers in their emotions, in their thoughts, in the spaces where distraction no longer works, and this is why your energy feels tied to theirs. This is why you can't completely let go no matter how much you try, because on some level, both of you are still holding on to something that was never fully expressed, never fully understood, never fully given the chance it deserved. But listen carefully, because this is where you must shift your perspective. Just because something is unfinished does not mean it is meant to be completed in the way you imagine. Sometimes unfinished connections exist to teach, to awaken, to transform you into a version of yourself that no longer chases clarity from others but creates it within. And I know this is not easy to hear, because your heart wants resolution, your heart wants answers, your heart wants a moment where everything becomes clear and they finally say what you've been feeling all along. But their silence is speaking louder than words right now. Their hesitation is revealing more than any confession could, because love that is ready does not hide endlessly. Love that is ready does not stay trapped in fear forever. And this doesn't mean they don't feel deeply, it means they are not yet aligned with the courage required to express it, and that is a journey they must take on their own, without you pulling them, without you waiting endlessly at the edge of uncertainty. And here is something you need to realize: the more you focus on what they are not doing, the more you lose sight of what you deserve to receive. You deserve clarity, you deserve presence, you deserve someone who meets you without hesitation. Someone who doesn't just think about you in silence but shows up for you in reality. And this is not about replacing them or forgetting them overnight. This is about reclaiming your energy from a space that has been holding you in emotional suspension, because right now, you are between what was and what could be, and staying in that space too long will only drain you, will only keep you tied to a version of love that exists more in imagination than in action. And I need you to see the difference, because your feelings are real. Your connection is real, but real connection alone is not enough without mutual effort, without mutual courage, without mutual presence. And while they continue to hide what they feel, you are being called to rise above the uncertainty, to step into a version of yourself that no longer depends on someone else's readiness to feel complete. And this is where your power begins to return. This is where your clarity starts to form, because instead of asking, "Why are they not reaching out?" you begin to ask, "Why am I still waiting for someone who chooses silence over me?" And that question, my beloved child, will awaken something inside you, something stronger than longing, something deeper than attachment. It will awaken self-respect, and when self-respect rises, everything changes. The way you see them changes, the way you see yourself changes, and the way you approach love transforms completely, because you stop settling for hidden feelings and start demanding visible truth. And yes, there is still a possibility that one day they may come forward. One day they may gather the courage to break their silence. One day they may finally say what they have been holding back for so long. But by the time that moment arrives, you will not be the same person who was waiting, hoping, questioning. You will be someone who understands their worth deeply, someone who no longer accepts half-presence, someone who has grown beyond the need for validation from someone who once stayed silent. And in that moment, you will have a choice, not from a place of longing, but from a place of strength, whether to open that door again or to walk forward into something new that aligns with who you have become. And this is the part they don't realize. While they are hiding their feelings, you are evolving, you are transforming, you are becoming someone who no longer waits in confusion but moves with clarity. And that shift will either bring them back in a different way or release them completely from your path, and both outcomes are not losses. Both outcomes are growth, because either they rise to meet you or you rise beyond them, and in both cases, you win. And this is why you cannot lose yourself in the idea of what they might be feeling, because your life is not meant to revolve around someone else's hesitation. Your story is not meant to pause because someone else is unsure. You are meant to move, to grow, to experience love that flows freely without fear, without confusion, without silence. And as you continue forward, there will still be nights when you think of them, moments when memories resurface, times when your heart feels that familiar pull again. But those moments will no longer control you. They will simply remind you of how deeply you are capable of feeling, and that is not something to run from, that is something to honor. Because one day, that same depth of feeling will meet someone who is not afraid of it, someone who doesn't hide from it, someone who recognizes it and chooses it fully. And when that happens, you will finally understand why this connection had to unfold the way it did, not to keep you stuck, but to prepare you, to strengthen you, to guide you towards something more aligned, more stable, more real. And until that day arrives, remember this truth: the person you miss is thinking about you, yes, but you are no longer defined by who thinks about you in silence. You are defined by who chooses you in reality. And that distinction, my beloved child, will set you free. My beloved child. Now comes the part that most people avoid, the part that separates illusion from truth, because up until now you have been feeling, sensing, wondering, and holding on to something that exists in a space between reality and emotion. And while everything you feel is valid, everything you sense is real on an energetic level, there is still a deeper truth that must be faced if you truly want peace, clarity, and power over your own heart. And this truth may not be comfortable, but it will free you in a way nothing else can. The person you miss, the one who crosses your mind every night, the one whose absence feels louder than anyone else's presence. Yes, they think about you, yes, they feel something they cannot fully explain, but at the same time, they are choosing not to act on it. They are choosing silence. They are choosing distance. They are choosing to keep you in a space where you can be remembered but not reached, felt but not held, imagined but not experienced, and that choice matters more than any hidden feeling they carry inside. Because feelings without action create confusion, they create attachment without fulfillment, they create a loop where you keep hoping for something that never fully arrives. And I need you to truly understand this, not just emotionally but logically, because your heart deserves both truth and protection. If someone misses you but does nothing about it, if someone thinks about you but never reaches out, if someone feels something but continues to hide it, then what they are offering you is not a relationship, it is an idea, it is a possibility that lives only in your mind and in their silence, and no matter how deep that idea feels, it cannot replace real presence, real effort, real love that shows up in your life consistently and clearly. And this is where many people lose themselves. They fall in love with potential, they attach themselves to what could be, and in doing so, they ignore what is and what is right now is simple: they are not here, they are not expressing, they are not choosing you openly, and that is not something you should ignore or justify. It is something you must accept with strength, not bitterness, not anger, but clarity, because clarity is what breaks emotional chains. Clarity is what brings you back to yourself, and here is the shift that will change everything for you. Instead of asking, why are they hiding their feelings? Ask, why am I holding on to someone who hides? Instead of wondering, when will they come forward? Ask, why am I waiting for someone who is not moving? And these questions are not meant to hurt you. They are meant to wake you up, to bring your focus back to where it belongs, which is you, your life, your peace, your future, because right now, you are giving emotional energy to someone who is giving you silence in return, and that imbalance will never create the love you are looking for. It will only keep you stuck in longing, and longing, no matter how poetic it feels, is not a place you are meant to live in forever. It is a temporary state, a signal that something needs to change, and that change begins with you choosing yourself even when your heart wants to choose them, even when your emotions pull you back into memories, even when your mind tries to convince you that something might still happen, because yes, something might happen, but you cannot build your life on might. You cannot invest your time, your energy, your heart into uncertainty, because every moment you spend waiting for someone to become ready is a moment you take away from someone who already is ready, someone who would not hesitate, someone who would not hide, someone who would not leave you questioning your place in their life. And I know this realization can feel heavy, because it forces you to release not just a person, but a vision, a hope, a story you created in your mind about what this connection could have been. And letting go of that is not easy. It feels like losing something even if you never fully had it, but sometimes what you are really losing is an illusion, and losing an illusion is not destruction, it is awakening. It is clarity finally stepping in where confusion once lived, and as this clarity grows inside you, something powerful begins to happen. You stop checking your phone hoping for their message. You stop replaying old conversations. You stop wondering what they are thinking about you, because you start realizing that what they think does not shape your reality. What they do does. And what they are doing right now is nothing, and nothing cannot be the foundation of something meaningful, and this is where your power fully returns, because you begin to shift from waiting to moving, from hoping to deciding, from questioning to knowing, knowing that you deserve more than hidden feelings, knowing that you deserve someone who is not confused about you, someone who is not afraid to express what they feel, someone who doesn't make you decode silence or search for meaning in absence. And when you reach this level of understanding, something unexpected happens. The emotional hold they had on you starts to weaken, not because you stopped caring completely, but because you stopped depending on them for emotional closure. You gave that closure to yourself. You accepted what is, instead of chasing what could be, and in that acceptance, you find peace. Not temporary distraction, but real peace, the kind that doesn't disappear when night falls, the kind that doesn't rely on someone else's actions to exist. And from that place of peace, you become magnetic in a different way, not desperate for connection, not attached to one person, but open, grounded, and clear. And this is often the moment when things shift unexpectedly. Sometimes the person who was silent feels that change. They sense your energy pulling back. They notice your absence where your presence once quietly waited, and suddenly, they begin to feel the loss more deeply. They begin to question their own silence. They begin to wonder if they missed their chance. and sometimes, not always, but sometimes, that is when they reach out, that is when they try to return, but by then, you are no longer the same person who was waiting for them. You are someone who has seen the truth, someone who has grown beyond emotional dependency, someone who now has standards, boundaries, and clarity. And in that moment, you will not react from longing, you will respond from strength. You will see them not as the answer to your feelings, but as a choice that you can accept or walk away from without losing yourself again. And that is the ultimate shift, when love becomes a choice instead of a need, when connection becomes mutual instead of one-sided, when your heart becomes a place of strength instead of vulnerability without protection. And this is where your story transforms completely. Not because they changed first, but because you did, and whether they come back or not will no longer define your happiness, because your happiness will no longer depend on someone who once chose silence over you. It will depend on the life you are building, the love you are open to, and the standards you refuse to lower again. And that is the truth you needed to hear, not just that they think about you, but that you are meant for more than being someone they think about in silence. You are meant to be chosen, expressed, valued, and loved openly. And until that happens with the right person, your responsibility is not to wait, but to rise. And that, my beloved child, is where your real journey begins.